So please take 3 deep breaths. 1 to quiet the body. 1 to quiet the mind. And a 3rd breath that you follow all the way into your heart space. Within you is the wisdom of the ages. The wisdom of the ages is divine wisdom, and it operates as your internal navigation system. Today, open yourself to divine wisdom. Listen to your internal navigation system. Allow it to guide you to make spirit-led decisions. Allow it to show you the next step in your spiritual journey. This internal navigation system flows through you and allows you to experience truth. If what you feel is unrest, discord, or discomfort, you can use this as a sign, as a signal to redirect your focus back to your own divine wisdom. In the silence today, open yourself up to divine wisdom. Listen to your internal navigation system. What is the message for you today? Be open. Listen. We release all these thoughts and ideas into divine mind and ask as we go about our day to notice the signs, to be aware of the signals, guiding and directing our spiritual path. Amen. We're going to be talking today about It's Not Easy Being Green. We're first going to listen to a song sung by one of my favorite singers, which is Kermit the Frog. So this is from 1970, but I hope you enjoy. So Joe Raposo wrote music for Sesame Street, and in 1970 he wrote that song for Kermit the Frog. Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, was a bit of a philosopher, either that or a modern-day prophet. In any case, the song that they all created together and Kermit sings to us really holds some important spiritual truths. In the song, it begins with Kermit lamenting something about himself that he cannot change. It is very important to note that being green is one part of how Kermit was born or created or envisioned. He is a green frog. So Kermit's dissatisfaction is that in his eyes, he is ordinary. His self-esteem is low. He wishes he was a brighter, more bold color. He says that he just blends in and gets passed over. He is envious of those folks who stand out, the flashy people everyone notices, like Miss Piggy. What Kermit is indulging in is comparing himself to other things or people. Somehow this comparison leaves him feeling less than or not enough. Way back in the year 1440, John Lydgate created the phrase, "Comparisons are odious." And the phrase "comparisons are odious" is used to remind ourselves that comparisons are erroneous and useless, as we do not have the same qualities, talents, or gifts. Unlike widgets that are manufactured to be exactly alike, one person cannot be compared to another because we are not the same. When you make a comparison between yourself and another, you are being unjust to both parties. Comparisons can lead to envy, jealousy, resentment, and grudges. So we witness Kermit feeling down because he is not something else, until he compares his ordinariness to the beauty of the stars in the sky. And this is the turning point. Kermit looks to the universe and gets some perspective. Once you stargaze, it is easy to ask yourself, what is my place in the universe, and what is mine to do? It is after turning his attention to the universe that suddenly Kermit realizes what is good about being green. He says green is the color of new life. It can be cool, friendly-like. Green can be big like a mountain, or important like a river, or tall like a tree. Kermit is using similes to remind himself how to love and empower his greenness. He finally comes to acceptance. He says, "I'm green. It will do fine." He goes beyond acceptance to embracing his greenness. He says it's beautiful. There is a shift from self-loathing or self-doubting to realizing his amazing greenness. But wait, his change in attitude is not complete because he has made the realization at an intellectual level. It is not soul deep, unshakable reality. He finishes his song by saying, "And I think it's what I want to be." See, it still hasn't penetrated to inside, to the heart knowledge, to the soul knowingness. In this little song, we learn a couple of important truths. Number one, the importance of loving, accepting, and appreciating the person you are, the person you were created to be. Keeping in mind that you have unique gifts and abilities that are yours to use and to share. Number two, that self-love, appreciation, and acceptance must be more than head knowledge. There are parts of ourselves that, when we accept them, actually make us stronger, happier, and more self-assured. As Kermit says, "Why wonder? I'm green." But for full acceptance, and for that realization and awareness to become part of his beingness, he has to have his soul identity change. There has to be a transformation at the spiritual level. So let's say you sometimes notice something about yourself that you're not pleased with. Here I'm talking about things you can change. It's not part of your greenness. Perhaps you are quick to anger or too ready to believe any criticism leveled at you. Maybe you find it difficult to love others or to welcome change as an opportunity. You may be unsure of what it is your spirit intends for this life. These traits and questions may be your spiritual challenge. Look at what you want to change as an invitation to uplift your spirit to a higher level of consciousness. To get to the place where you feel whole, complete, lacking in nothing, take some consciousness work. Maybe where you are, and maybe where you want to be, is a person who can extend unconditional love to all people you come in contact with and do it as naturally as breathing. This is going to take some soul-deep, conscious-raising work. It takes some soul-searching and an inside-out spiritual adjustment. When you find a spiritual challenge of something that needs to change, there are some steps you can take to make that inside-out change. But remember, this only works on traits, attitudes, or false beliefs that you can change about yourself. Just keep in mind the serenity prayer. Say it with me if you know it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today we're going to use Joe Raposo's song and the idea, "It's not easy being green," as our tool for spiritual change. I created this tool for the 2023 Unity Happiness Adventure and went even deeper with it in the 2024 Unity Women's Retreat. This is a tool to make lasting change, an inside out, a spiritual consciousness change. It's one way to address spiritual change. When I say that making a permanent change is an inside out process, I'm taking it out of the realm of the intellect and the realm of the ego. See, the mind will let you make a vow, make a resolution, devise a plan. Heck, you can even write a manifesto. You can create a blueprint with every step necessary. But if you're trying to impose change from your mind, your will, the realm of your ego, it will not be a lasting change. Regardless of how passionately you want it, no matter how much you need or desire a change, you will lose focus. Think of all the carefully made New Year's resolutions. Statistically, the average resolution lasts 14 days. If you really are motivated and determined, you might make it to the end of February, 6 weeks. That passion and motivation fades, and most folks go back to what they know, what is safe and predictable, even if it's uncomfortable. One of the reasons the change doesn't take place is because your ego wants to keep everything status quo. Anything that is unlike the change you want to make will show up. Think about it. You decide to deepen your prayer life and meditation. You're going to devote more time. But suddenly you have new responsibilities and there's so many things for you to do that you can't find the time even though you desire it. Have you ever had this happen? Here's an example of how it worked for me. I'm taking a water aerobics class twice a week. I enjoy it so much, and I like how I feel after exercising more, so I made an elaborate plan to do other exercises. I wrote it all down. I included when, how, and what equipment I would need to make this happen. Then, while moving boxes in my office, a 3-hole punch tool fell off the counter and landed on my bare foot. Ouch! I broke my toes. That hurts. All my carefully laid plans, poof. I was finding it hard to walk the dog with broken toes, much less find a new exercise plan. Then this past week, while I was swimming around in my water class, feeling a little down, I got a poke to my spirit. An aha. I realized I needed to take my desire for physical change to a spiritual place. I needed to get beyond my own ego to go and make a permanent change. So we're going to engage in this process knowing that your ego is going to try to bring you back to status quo, whatever it takes. That's why transformation must come from a spiritual place. So we're ready to talk about changing from the inside out. And the first thing that must happen is to name what is making you uncomfortable. In your mind, I want you to start saying the phrase, "It's not easy being." You may come up with a zillion things at once. You may come up with only one or two, or you may draw a blank. But it begins by admitting, it's not easy being. We're going to say it out loud, and then I'm going to let your mind float for a minute. It's not easy being. It may take some digging to really name the emotion or the loss of what it is your soul desires. But when I do it myself, here are some of mine. It's not easy being. It's not easy being alone. It's not easy being a caretaker. It's not easy being obese. It's not easy being without my sister Jana. Even after you name something, it may take some digging to really name the emotion or the loss or your soul's true desire. For example, it's not easy being a caretaker. What's not easy? I have to break it down to the real soul deep emotions. I don't mind being a servant leader. I'm all over that. But being in service to one person at their beck and call, blah. As a never been married single woman with no children, I've only ever had to think about myself. This thinking about someone else all the time is exhausting, nerve-wracking, and annoyingly intrusive. It's not easy learning to be unselfish. Let me address something that has affected men and women in our congregation over the past few years. It's not easy being a widow or a widower. That feels like something you cannot change. Your spouse is gone. It's now part of your identity. But it may be time to reframe what that means for your life now, today. There are parts of this experience you can change and work to create an inside-out transformation. For example, it's not easy being depressed, sad, confused, or numb. Maybe it's not easy being single or a single parent. It's not easy being shut out of your social circle. Dig down to the emotions or situations that are keeping you stationary and say to yourself, it's not easy being. Is there something that is coming to your consciousness? From whatever popped in your mind, pick one, it's not easy, and start there. And now it's part of audience participation time. I'm going to ask you to be very brave. I want you to share your not easy being with one person. However, if whatever is not easy being is too close to your heart, you can just whisper it aloud to yourself. But if you're feeling open to it, you're going to turn to the person either behind or in front of you, to your right or your left, and you're going to say, it's not easy being, fill in the blank. Ready? Go. To each other. Talk. Okay, we did step one. Some of us did step one. Okay. We named what is making life uncomfortable or what is keeping you from your best life. Believe it or not, the next step may be harder. Once you have identified what it's not easy being, the next step is admitting powerlessness. If you've been in a 12-step program, this might be an easier step for you. For most of us, our ego will fight us every step of the way. But this is where we become dependent on spirit, on the power and presence of the universe. For women who were raised or fought our way to being independent, this can be an unfamiliar and uncomfortable step. For men who are raised to never let them see you sweat, admitting powerlessness can be very uncomfortable. Now we have admitted that there is something in our lives that is needing an impending spiritual transformation. Next, we need to say, I'm willing to let myself, my ego, know that I am powerless and therefore dependent on God. I'm going to surrender all the emotional baggage that is attached to what I want to change, becoming aware of what's holding me back. You have to ask yourself, what beliefs or what energy is keeping me stuck at the "it's not being easy" stage? Surrender your emotions, surrender any false beliefs or any "yeah, but" notions that keep you from change. Here's the final thing you need to surrender. Let go of knowing the outcome. You named the what. That needs to be transformed. Now let Spirit take care of the how, the when, and what it will look like after transformation. So each one of us knows our personal is not easy being. We are ready to admit our powerlessness and surrender that emotional baggage, false beliefs, societal norms, whatever it is, including the outcome. Now we're ready for a lasting transformation. This part comes in 2 stages. First, we release the old, release what was. And you may think that since you've named it, given it the power to God, and surrendered, it's done. But you also need to unclench your hand and really let it go. Release it into the universe. Phase 2, affirm what you know to be the truth. I'm talking about spiritual truth with a capital T. This truth does not change over time. It is not relative. It is not related to a particular situation. Truth with a capital T means it is true for all sentient beings at all times. If you're not sure what a spiritual truth is, then I recommend H. Emily Caddy's book, Lessons in Truth, a course of 12 lessons in practical Christianity. This book was published in 1896. Today, it still stands as the core text of Unity beliefs. Truth with a capital T doesn't change. Capital T truth teachings come from many sources. Spiritual truths were revealed by Buddha, Jesus, Mohammed, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, even Stan Lee, the famous comic book writer. In the original Spider-Man comic, there is a text box where Peter Parker is reflecting on what's happened in his life. And that text box says one of the most famous lines from all comic books: "With great power comes great responsibility." You know a spiritual truth when you hear it because it resonates throughout your entire body. Knowing what I now know about spiritual truth, I have to ask myself, what is the truth surrounding "it's not easy being a caretaker"? If I admit that I am powerless to change my own selfishness and turn it over to God, if I unclench my hands of my own need to be autonomous and free from concerns of others, what spiritual truth is revealed? After sitting with that question for a while, it finally comes to me. All is one. We are all one in God. Independence is an illusion. In unconditional love, serving one another is never a burden, but an expression of our spiritual oneness. We are interdependent. My new awareness of this spiritual truth can also be said as an "I am" statement. An "I am" statement expresses your identity, your truth, your spiritual essence. An "I am" an "I am" statement is the essence of the God potential which expresses as you. I am one with you. You and I are one with God. We are all one. That is a heavy-duty shift in my soul's awareness. I take that shift in my soul's awareness and I commit it to action. Indeed, action is Unity's 5th principle. From our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, the truth you know is the truth you use. Otherwise, it is just theory. It has no power to change your life. Spiritual transformation takes place in the real world, not just in your mind or in your heart. When there is a spiritual transformation, there are lifestyle changes that take place. Spiritual transformation leads to sustainable changes, lasting changes, permanent changes. So we all have something that it's not easy being. We can experience a lasting change, a change from the inside out, or a spiritual transformation. If you want a way to remember these steps, I created a handout, that is the teacher in me, that includes a brief explanation of these steps, and on the back side there's a worksheet, so you can work it all down. You can pick it up in the lobby after the service. But just to refresh, a permanent change from the inside out or spiritual transformation happens on these steps. 1, name what needs to be changed. It's not easy being. Admit our powerlessness and need to turn it over to God. Surrender the old feelings, beliefs, habits, energy, and attachments. Move from transformation by releasing or unclenching our hold and affirm the spiritual truth. Create an I am statement to embrace the soul level transformation and take action. Apply the new truth, the new I am identity in your everyday life. I really want to thank God for giving an inspired message to Joe and Jim and Kermit. I'm thankful to them for giving me an easy way to identify those things in my life that are ripe for spiritual transformation. So just as Reverend Rogers does, I'm giving you homework this week. And your homework this week is to take time and think to yourself, it's not easy being, and follow Spirit to let an idea bubble up, to fill in that blank. Then follow your steps to a new I am identity. God bless, and I hope you have an interesting and thought-provoking week. Amen.